Good evening, brothers and sisters. Tonight I just wanted to show you a little something I ran into um, in the kind of the news, and um, it starts for me pointing us back here to Revelation 13, and in verse 11 we see the false prophet sort of being defined here, and let's just read this through down to 17. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. And he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by the sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. The image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And the last verse down here is really where that notion of the one world financial system kind of gets put into place. And the thing I was just kind of reminiscing about here tonight is, the enforcement of this one world financial system in particular, um, well, in the one world religion here, because we see this in verse 12. The enforcement of it appears to come from the false prophet. Now, um, he makes them worship the image of the beast, and he makes the mark so you could buy or sell. So I kind of thought that was curious because there's a lot of, if you want to say, people that are very suspicious, as am I, that the Vatican is behind the one world religious system, and you see the Pope doing a ton of things now in terms of trying to bring all different kinds of faith into unity, not just trying to collapse the Protestant denominations back to the Catholic Church, but he's was just in the what's it called, the Blue Mosque in Turkey, trying to get the Islamists, and Turkey, of course, being the center of the Ottoman Empire, trying to get the Islamists, and he prayed with them there. So he's really got this one world religion thing going. But a lot of people also point to the fact that, the Pope, or the Black Pope in particular, um, has control over the financial systems of the world. And the city of London is often pointed to, um, the, and that's the name for the district within London. That's the financial hub managed. I think that's part of what's owned by the royalty in England. I'm not sure, but most people say that the Pope's system is over that, and that group um, is in control of the financial systems around the world. So whether that's true or not, a lot of people have put a lot more time into that than I have, so I just can't say. But what I do want to point to is this Karen Hudes that's kind of come out of the World Bank system, and um, has done a bunch of videos, if you want to say, that would be along the lines of the truther movement. And she claims, while she was part of the World Bank, she was a lawyer for them, and when she left there, she started doing all sorts of videos, some that were trying to point to scandals that were occurring, um, and some that were a little bit more far out. Like, she had a video a while back that she claimed she was part of a meeting, I guess, where these overly tall you know, half humanoid people were in the meeting, and you know, the Nephilim, or what, I forget what she called them, but she was pointing to that they were here and involved in these super high level financial meetings in terms of controlling the world money situation. So who knows about all that? It is kind of strange having somebody from the World Bank come out and talk about things that mostly people are flagged as conspiracy nuts would talk about. And so let's just get a minute of what she's saying here on this one. It's really kind of curious.
In the World Bank Legal Department for 21 years and has been entrusted by the Bretton Woods institutions, that's 188 ministers of finance, in making sure that their role in something called the Global Debt Facility, which is assets that were put into trust at the end of World War II for 50 years in order to make sure that these assets will go to the benefit of humanity. And I'm going to discuss now how this is going to take place, because it's essential that this gold is used to replace the paper currencies that are they're very unstable. We heard on December 1st, Chris Powell.
Okay, so I don't know if you caught that, but she said, you know, that the world currencies are very unstable. And what she was going to talk about is this new currency that was printed back in when Reagan was around, um, being traded in for the Federal Reserve dollars. And she was trying to argue that the reason why this is possible without a complete collapse first is because of the asset value of these bonds she referred to, um, or these assets that were agreed to be for world benefit after the Second World War. Bonds against that were issued, and I guess somehow the value of those bonds and the interest on it is greater than the debt that's being held in the world in terms of the Federal Reserve banking system. And so she was going to say that there's going to be basically a kind of a currency swap, and that the new currency that comes out won't, it'll be controlled back by the governments again, um, and that it won't be subject to interest when it's uh, loaned out, I guess, or whatever. She was pointing to a bunch of uh, financial evil that had happened with the existing financial instruments, and so this was going to be more of a utopia currency. You know, do I know if that's right or not? She claims to have been in meetings with all these different countries positioning this solution, and now she's saying the time is here for that transition to occur. So I don't, you know, again, what do you do with that? I mean, she appears to have the background to have the wherewithal or the knowledge of these things, but it hasn't happened yet, and nothing's been announced yet. And so it kind of goes into the big bucket of, you know, who knows if she's, you know, trying to do something for the better, or if this is just part of the bigger plan. What I wanted to point back to, though, is let's just say her scenario happens. I mean, we do see the currencies failing. Everybody is printing. Japan, the U.S., everybody is printing dollars, the EU, like crazy. And because it's fiat currency, you know, the only value that really is behind any of this is just the value that everybody else will ascribe to trading these fiat paper instruments back and forth. There's no real value. And so she was trying to say that, well, this new currency has a gold value to it. And so that solves that problem as well. But you see it, if this happened, you would see a one world currency, wouldn't you? And she didn't necessarily say who would control uh, or manage this currency. I think later in this video, and I'll put the link down below, she kind of fended off that it wouldn't be the US because something about lack of trust from Japan. And I don't really know what that all means, but I encourage you to come watch this video. Uh, I don't know. I just chalked this up as one more scenario that, if this one occurred, would again point to the end because it would be getting one currency in place. If what she says is true, these countries are ready to accept it. And also, you see this white hat kind of a thing happening where all this uh, anxiety around the Federal Reserve that's built up now and been hyped up. Um, the banksters and Alex Jones and everybody hyping that up. Well, if their money was taken off the market and now this was replaced by a currency that, quote, solves all those problems, wouldn't that be a stealth move? If, people would want to accept it, right? Because the evil banksters would be out of the financing system. And so I just can't believe that something that major would happen. If you go back in the history of what people call the banksters and the Rothschilds in Europe, this has been hundreds of years where they've funded both sides of wars, and many people say actually instigated all the major world wars or all the inter-country wars ever since to fund both sides to get governments enslaved to their financial instruments and the Federal Reserve systems in these different countries, that's been their tool all along. So if they've had the control to generate wars for several hundred years, I can't believe some technicality of swapping one gold-backed instrument for all the Federal Reserve debt would happen with just some nice little neat transaction. So, I'm jaded like always on any of this, and the only part that I really see as biblical is one more scenario for bringing in a one world financial system. And so I guess that's why I'm doing the video tonight. All right, Saints, if anybody happened to watch this and you don't know the Lord yet, or if I had a spammer on my last video I did, clearly he was spewing hate, but I don't think most people saw the comment because I just blocked the guy. But if anybody's watching this, you don't know the Lord, or you're curious about what's going on, or why are people posting all these kinds of videos, it is because there's so many signs that what the Bible talked about as the end of the age is right at our doorstep. And if you accept Christ before he comes and gets the true believers in the church, you will go with them, and this what you can clearly see is this one world system that's going to be headed up by what the Bible calls the Antichrist, who's out to basically kill and slaughter most of the world. Um, you would avoid that, and so I'd ask you to consider, if you haven't surrendered your life to Lord Jesus, that just think about it. We're all sinners here. Our thoughts betray us every day. We lust. We think about mean things about other people or whatever. And in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said God considers that sin, punishable by death. That's unfortunately that's the way it is because heaven is perfect. Nobody's going to heaven on their own merit. We've all sinned, and we constantly sin. And so if you surrender your life to Jesus, he already paid for all those sins on the cross. Surrender to him, repent, turn away from those sins as best you can, and you'll have salvation, and you'll be part of this church, and you're not going to be here when this whole thing breaks loose. Everybody that's, you know, trying to build a bunker to survive what everybody sees coming around the horizon, um, you just won't even be here for it. You'll be in heaven celebrating. So if you want to know more about salvation, biblical salvation, what the biblical end times say, private message me, and I'd be glad to talk to you. Okay, Saints, good night.